Liberal legislation has freed criminals in our streets and created chaos everywhere. In St. Jerome, a woman was killed by her spouse, a man who was arrested 30 times before and who violated his release conditions several times, and he was released by these Liberals. Today we're voting on a Conservative motion to reverse these Liberal laws, put criminals back in prison, and restore security for all Canadians. Will the PM allow this to pass? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Every Canadian deserves to be safe and to feel safe in their communities. Over the course of the recent federal election campaign, we made several commitments to help reform Canada's bail system and to advance stronger penalties for those who commit serious offences against their fellow Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we are willing to work across the aisle with other members to ensure we put forward reforms that are informed by evidence, not ones that are seemingly copied and pasted from American-style bail laws. Mr. Speaker, it's only going to be a matter of weeks before we advance new legislation to strengthen criminal justice reforms in this country. I hope all members from all parties support us.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I met with the head of the Peel Regional Police Union, along with a group of crime victims. Among them was the Faruqi family. Alim Faruqi rose at night to protect his kids from a home invader who was shot in the throat. He's dead. His brother came out and said the Liberal government should be ashamed of itself for keeping in place Liberal bail that has allowed for 1,600 crimes every single day. We have a motion before the House to get rid of Liberal bail and restore safety to our streets. Will the Prime Minister let it pass?
Hear, hear. Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, obviously, when such violent circumstances arise in communities across the country, it's incumbent upon members of Parliament on both sides of the aisle to condemn them unreservedly. I would remind my honourable colleague some of the laws that he points to in his many promises, including ones pertaining to self-defence, were in fact put into Canada's laws when the Conservatives left held power while Stephen Harper was Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition was in his cabinet. Mr. Speaker, moving forward, Conservatives, Liberals and others will see some of the strongest reforms being put in place when it comes to changing the bail system in this country and when it comes to adopting stiffer sentences for serious crimes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised he would negotiate a big win in terms of the U.S. and get a deal before July 21st. Tomorrow, he'll be announcing the deal he will get with the U.S. President. The PMO has indicated to the media that there'll be a full elimination of tariffs on aluminum and steel. Can he confirm as well that the big win he'll be announcing tomorrow will include the elimination of all tariffs on cars, softwood lumber, and all other Canadian products? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition is right. Yesterday, at the invitation of the U.S. President, the Prime Minister will go to Washington to continue important discussions, obviously, on the issue of trade and how to protect jobs and industry in Canada and how to build a North American economy that will benefit both of our countries. We'll also be discussing other international issues. And, Mr. Speaker, I would be surprised if the Leader of the Opposition was not happy with this commitment from our U.S. partner.
The Prime Minister promised that he was going to negotiate a win with the President, that he'd have a deal by July 21st. Here we are in October, and tomorrow the Prime Minister is going to the White House to announce this deal. Surely he's not just going for a photo op and to make more excuses. And the Prime Minister's office is already telling the media that there will be the full elimination of tariffs on steel and aluminum. Will he also confirm that this deal that he's announcing tomorrow, this win, will include elimination of tariffs on autos, softwood lumber, Buy America, and all other protectionism against Canada?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade.
Mr. Speaker, I remember the Leader of the Opposition and some of his colleagues criticizing for the government for not having enough direct face-to-face engagement with the President of the United States. So good news, Mr. Speaker. The President has invited the Prime Minister to a working meeting tomorrow in Washington, followed by a working lunch. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, the conversation will center on trade issues and what we want to do to protect Canadian industries and Canadian workers, at the same time building an economy in North America that's in the interest of both countries. And the discussion will also talk about a series of other international issues.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Surely, after promising to negotiate a win, to have a deal by July the 21st, the Prime Minister's not flying all the way to Washington, D.C. just to have lunch. By the sounds of it, that's all they are going to accomplish, Mr. Speaker. We've seen since he promised this win, American tariffs on Canada have doubled. The Prime Minister has caved on counter tariffs on the digital services tax and on everything else, and 86,000 Canadians have lost their jobs as a result of his weakness. Surely the Prime Minister will finally keep his promise and come home with a win. What will it be?
The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is currently in the best position of any major trading ally of the United States. But we've said consistently, Mr. Speaker, that we have work to do with our American partners on sectoral tariffs. We have work to do in building an economy in North America that's in the interest of Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. That's exactly the conversation that the Prime Minister will have with the President. And Mr. Speaker, was the Leader of the Opposition suggesting if the President of the United States invites you to go to Washington for a meeting and a working lunch, we should have just said no and hung the phone up?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, we're suggesting he actually keep his promise and negotiate a win. The Liberals' excuses are tripping over each other. Last week, the Prime Minister said the American tariffs on Canada are so bad that that's why we have the fastest shrinking economy in the G7, the second highest unemployment, $52 billion of net investment that has fled, 86,000 jobs that have been lost. And now they're saying that we have the best possible position. Which is it? Why is our economy so bad? Because of failed Liberal diplomacy on trade or bad economic management at home?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
We never talk down our workers, we never talk down our industries, and we never talk down our economy. Let me talk to you about good news, Mr. Speaker. 500 jobs new at Itachi in Varennes, Quebec. 150 jobs in Alstom, Saint-Bruno, Quebec. 400 new jobs in Kitimat, Cedar, LNG. 500 new jobs at Ferrero, Brantford, Ontario. Who doesn't like Nutella? 460 jobs at Stem Cell Technologies in Burnaby. We'll continue to build Canada.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister promised that he was going to negotiate a victory with the United States before July 21st, 2025. And still, no deal, no victory, and the U.S. tariffs have doubled. Today, the Prime Minister made his biggest concession by promising to export another $1 billion to the United States. That means lower salaries, fewer jobs for Canadian workers. So why, when the Prime Minister has lunch at the White House, why is it always the Canadian workers who suffer? The Honourable Leader of the Government. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and many of his colleagues are obviously at the White House today in order to further the interests of Canadians. And I know that the entire country is hoping that our Prime Minister will continue to move this forward, to continue to build Canada, create jobs, and I hope that the Leader of the Opposition supports him on this. The Prime Minister promised victory, but there is no victory. That he promised a deal, there is no deal, and now he's promising $1 billion of Canadian investments in the United States with nothing in exchange. Now, what that means is mines that are closing in Quebec that are going to open in Pennsylvania. It means mills that are going to close in BC and open up in the state of Washington. It means plants in Ontario that are going to shut down and then open in Michigan. So why did the Prime Minister sell off Canadian workers during his visit to Washington, the Honourable Leader of the government? Mr. Speaker, that is completely absurd. The Prime Minister obviously is there to promote Canadian interests, and those include our trade interests, obviously, and secondly, Canadians are proud that big investors in the United States have brought profits back to Canada, to our workers, to people who collect pensions in Canada. So I'm not sure what the opposition leader is referring to, but it seems that he doesn't want the Prime Minister to chalk up a victory today, and that's regrettable.
The Prime Minister promised Canadians to, and I quote, negotiate a victory. He promised have a deal by July 21st, 2025. Still no deal, still no victory. And American tariffs have actually doubled. But today, the Prime Minister made his biggest concession of all. He promised to push $1 trillion of investment out of Canada into the United States of America, which will drive down Canadian wages and Canadian jobs. Why is it when the Prime Minister goes for lunch at the White House, it's Canadian workers on the menu?
That's right. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and his colleagues are at the White House today, advancing Canada's interests, advancing Canada's trade interests, advancing our interests in foreign policy generally. And I know that the hopes of all Canadians accompany our Prime Minister to those meetings where he will very, very clearly defend the rights of Canadian workers and of the Canadian economy. I sure hope the Leader of the Opposition is among those Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister casually said, and I quote, $500 billion in the last 5 years alone of Canadian investment has left to the U.S. And he said probably $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. In other words, he made a massive $1 trillion concession before the deal was even signed and without getting anything in return. $1 trillion of exited investment means closing mines and factories in Canada and opening them in the U.S. Why did the Prime Minister sell out our workers on his visit to Washington?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, we do not need Donald Trump's permission to open mines and roads and infrastructure in Canada. That's exactly what we're going to be doing, is building Canada with Canadian labor, Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum, and Canadian lumber. If he's referring to the Maple 8, the pension funds that Canadians are so proud of and invest in, who invest all over the world and take their profits back to Canada to pay Canadian pensions, well, I say bring that on too, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This government has already admitted that we have a problem with Canadian pension money leaving Canada to create jobs in other countries. They even created a Brookfield-run program to bring it back. But today, the Prime Minister promised the President that Canadian government policies would drive $1 trillion out of our economy into the American economy over the next 5 years. That is twice as bad as has happened in the last half-decade. This means lost jobs and lower wages for Canadians who already can't pay their bills. Again, why did the Prime Minister sell out Canadian workers in his visit to Washington?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
You know what Canadians feel when they see the Prime Minister and ministers in the Oval Office defending Canada? Mr. Speaker, they feel pride. They feel pride that this Prime Minister is standing up for our country, standing up for our workers, standing up for our steel industry, and these crazy hair-eyed schemes that the Leader of the Opposition comes up with just to get in the news cycle are quite frankly a little embarrassing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, all the hyperventilating in the world will not change the fact that the Prime Minister casually said in the Oval Office today, he bragged that $500 billion Canadian investment dollars have left for the States in the last 5 years, and then promised that $1 trillion more will leave in the next 5 years. Wow. That'll mean mines closing in Quebec and opening in Pennsylvania. It'll mean mills closing in BC and opening in Washington State, factories closing in Ontario and going to Michigan. Why is it that the Prime Minister sells out Canadian workers, Canadian jobs, and Canadian investments in the White House?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have said all along that Canada will look after its own people with our own projects, our own labor, our own material. We'll be opening mines, we'll be opening ports, we'll be opening railways, we'll be opening our Arctic. We are going to continue to build this country and get a fair, good trade deal for Canada, and it'll be thanks to this Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, now we know why President Trump wanted this Prime Minister to win so much, so he would be against a weak leader whose tax and anti-development policies are driving billions of dollars in jobs to the United States. Yesterday, the Prime Minister promised President Trump $1 trillion of investment in the coming years if we get the deal we want. That is investment that will leave Canada, driving mines and paper mills and factories out of Canada, leaving families without work. Why didn't the Prime Minister negotiate an end to the softwood lumber tariffs instead of offering this gift? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Things aren't getting off to an auspicious start today. Okay, the Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, this is another moment to give a little economic lesson to the Leader of the Opposition. The Canadian and American economies are closely aligned, and I gave such a lesson to the President of the U.S. yesterday. I said that what is at risk is Canadian investment into the United States if we do not get a real detail. We will get a deal, however, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he could certainly give lessons on driving investment out of Canada and into the United States because he has already managed to drive $54 billion worth of investment into the United States. This killed 86,000 jobs. Households are suffering from this. People are sitting around the dinner table wondering how they are going to pay their bills. And since this Prime Minister took power, American softwood lumber tariffs have doubled. Here's the question. After giving the Americans a $54 billion gift, has he negotiated an end to the softwood lumber tariffs? Yes or no? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the current situation is as follows. We have the best agreement with the Americans in the world. We are still negotiating further gains in major sectors, including softwood lumber. And we will only accept the best deal on softwood lumber.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, we now know why the U.S. President wanted this Prime Minister in power so badly. A weak leader whose high taxes and anti-development laws are sending billions of dollars and thousands of jobs out of this country. 86,000 jobs lost. And yesterday, the Prime Minister promised the President that he would increase Canadian investment in the U.S. by $1 trillion if he gets the agreement that he expects to get. Mr. Speaker, in exchange for $1 trillion of job losses in Canada, will he at least get an end to the U.S. auto tariffs that are killing jobs for our workers in Ontario?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have the best deal in the world with the Americans. First point. Second point, the President of the United States and myself had a meeting of minds yesterday with respect to the future of the steel sector, the aluminum sector, the energy sector in cooperation, which is why our teams are negotiating the terms of those deals. And we are working, as the President himself said in the Oval Office, on the modalities of an auto agreement.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he just confirmed he's selling out our auto workers. And let me tell him what it means when investment leaves this country, because he was forced a record amount out in his 7 months in power. The 700 workers at the GM plant who lost their jobs in Oshawa, they can tell him about investment that is left. They're sitting around the dinner table wondering how they're going to pay their bills while GM announces $4 billion of new investment south of the border. So while the Prime Minister promises yet another $1 trillion gift to President Trump, why doesn't he look them at those workers in the eye and explain to them why he betrayed them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is doing for the auto sector is an unprecedented investment in the Canadian auto sector. We look the Canadian auto workers in the eye. We have $5 billion in the Strategic Response Fund. We have $10 billion for liquidity management. We have worker retraining. We are striking deals with countries around the world. We have the best deal already with the Americans, and it will be even better.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we'll go soft on him today because I know he's still recovering from surgery to have his elbows removed. Remember that promise, Mr. Speaker? Dancing around with his elbows in the air. We haven't seen those elbows since the election, after which $54 billion of investment gone to the United States. 86,000 jobs gone. American tariffs on Canada doubled. And as to the best deal in the world, why is it then, if we have the best deal, that Canada has the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 and 86,000 people are without a job?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Okay. All right. Mr. Speaker, there are three things that are true. First is, I realized long before the Leader of the Opposition, long before the last election, you remember the last election? Long before the last election, that our relationship with the United States would never again be what it was. Secondly, thing that is true is we have the best deal with the Americans. And the third thing that's true is we will get an even better deal because we
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians do remember the last election where that Prime Minister promised to put elbows up. It was not a promise, it was the promise that he ran on. Now those elbows have come down, the American tariffs have doubled, we have by far the weakest economy in the G7, 86,000 people have lost their jobs, and the Prime Minister went pathetically to the White House to offer a $1 trillion gift, bowing before the President in weakness. $1 trillion, Mr. Speaker. Speaking of the last election, where in his platform did he promise to give $1 trillion of our investment dollars to the Americans?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform the Leader of the Opposition that there is a thing called the private sector. The private sector makes decisions about investment. The private sector makes decisions.
after the Prime Minister's visit to the White House, the U.S. Commerce Secretary has announced that there will be no relief on tariffs for finished automobiles in Canada. This after 700 Oshawa GM workers lost their jobs and GM sent $4 billion to the U.S.
I apologize for interrupting the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, but apparently the interpretation is not working, so I'll allow them. Is it back on? C'est bon? It's good? So from the top, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition from the top.
One day after the Prime Minister met at the White House, promising that he would fight for Canadian workers, we learned from the U.S. Commerce Secretary that there will be no relief for Canadian finished automobiles. This after 700 Oshawa GM workers lost their jobs with $4 billion of GM money going to the U.S. 900 CAMI workers in Ingersoll losing their jobs with those jobs going to the U.S. and 150 workers at Stellantis being sent home while $8 billion of Stellantis money goes to the U.S. The Prime Minister failed to stand up for auto workers yesterday. Will he do so now?
The Honourable... The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Watch your pressure. He's the Prime Minister. You can call him.
Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report that the Prime Minister and the President had a very productive discussion yesterday on steel, on aluminum, on energy for the benefit of the Canadian economy, and on auto. I remind my colleague of the President's words. We want Canada to do well making cars, so we will get there. Mr. Speaker, I encourage the Leader of the Opposition to take a look at even Ford Canada in my riding of Oakville and to realize that on this side of the House we are building.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister refused to stand up for our auto workers, and today he refuses to stand up for our auto workers. How can he sit right there? Well, the U.S. Commerce Secretary just came out and said the 25% tariffs will stay in place. Despite the Prime Minister's concession after concession, he backed down on counter tariffs, backed down on the DST. Yesterday offered $1 trillion of Canadian investment money, and still he can't win anything from our auto workers. What does he say to those thousands of auto workers that are out of work because of his weakness?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we have at this point with the United States for the auto sector is the lowest tariff in the world, less than 10%, lower than Europe, lower than Korea, lower than Japan. We have the lowest tariff, and we are still negotiating because, as the President said yesterday, the Prime Minister of Canada is a tough negotiator. We will get a great deal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Here we go.
Mr. Speaker, give me $1 trillion and even I will say something nice about this guy. Oh my God. How much is it going to cost to pay Canadian investment dollars to flatter this Prime Minister's ego? Yep. It would make you laugh if it didn't make you cry, Mr. Speaker. But for the workers in Ingersoll, in Windsor, and in Oshawa who have lost their jobs after the Prime Minister promised to protect them, how will they ever trust this Prime Minister again after he betrayed them?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs. Just a moment. The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, one thing that Canadians know from Ingersoll to Windsor to Oakville to Oshawa is that on this side of the House, we will not let Canadians down. We have the strategic fund putting billions of dollars to support auto workers and the auto sector. We are supporting the agri-food business, and we will always be there for Canadian workers as well, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we're about diversifying supply chains and supporting Canadians while we get the best deal possible for this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's really pathetic that the Prime Minister will not stand up for auto workers in this House of Commons, just like he refused to stand up for them yesterday. We have thousands of auto workers who have lost their jobs since this Prime Minister promised to protect them. These families are sitting around their tables wondering what is going to happen to them. They are among the 86,000 Canadians who've lost their jobs, leading to the second highest unemployment of any country in the G7. We have record lineups at food banks, and this Prime Minister is giving away $1 trillion investment dollars to the U.S. while people here can't even pay their bills. Why won't he stand up now?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservatives on standing up for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Every opportunity that they have to vote in favour of Canadians, whether it's pharmacare, whether it's dental care, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit, they vote against. And on this side of the House, whether it's the auto sector, whether it's energy, whether it's steel, whether it's aluminum, we will get the best deal for this country, and we will always be there for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I think we're beginning to see how it is that the President has been able to bulldoze over this Prime Minister. He won't even stand up when he is confronted by the Americans. Just over an hour ago, a report came out that the U.S. Commerce Secretary said there will be no relief for Canadian-made automobiles going into the United States. The Prime Minister is back down on counter tariffs, back down on the DST, back down on defense. Yesterday promised to push $1 trillion of private sector investment out of our country. How is he going to look those Canadian auto workers in the eye and tell them how he got nothing for them in return?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is a sad day in this House when the Leader of the Opposition suggests that standing up for the defense of this country, when the Leader of the Opposition suggests that spending to defend our borders, that spending to defend our fulfillment in NATO, that is backing down on defense. Shame. Now, we have the lowest tariff on autos of...
Speaker, come on, we can't even hear anything.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, at least he finally got up, but he didn't address the question about auto workers. There are auto workers who are sitting at home right now who do not know how they're going to pay their mortgages. This Prime Minister looked them in the eye and said he was going to protect their jobs. And then he said he would put his elbows up. And then he said he would get a win by July 21st. Then he said that he would have a deal. There's been no deal. There's been no win, and now for these workers, there is no job. Today we learned that he's backing down again on auto tariffs. Why is it that he's selling out our auto workers at a time when they need him most?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we...
Come on, Mr. Speaker, listen to this.
Japan, the European Union, the United Kingdom, every other country in the world is paying a high tariff than Canada has gotten on automobiles. And we are not done. That is why we have not signed an accord on autos. That is why we are fighting hard for our auto workers. And I put the president on notice yesterday about the consequences of not having that accord.
Okay. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. President, you have been warned. If you put in another tariff, he's going to give you yet another $1 trillion. This is the tough negotiator that we hired? The guy who broke his promise to have a deal on July 21st. A guy who broke his promise to negotiate a win, who simultaneously removed the counter tariffs while he was giving speeches promising to have them in place, and yesterday offered more concessions to the U.S. president, knowing that the tariffs that are killing our auto sector would stay in place. Why does he always back down and give our jobs to the Americans instead of standing up for Canada?
I just want to make sure we're ready before we go to the... The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, and I think it's important for the entire House to understand that we have a strategy with the United States that means that our auto sector is paying less than 10% tariff. When Japan, when Europe, when the UK, when the rest of the world is paying 15, which is bigger than 10 or higher. And we are not done yet because we refuse to sign a deal that isn't better in the interests of Canadians. And that's why
the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, he is already signing a deal that makes us worse off because he makes concession after concession after concession while getting nothing in return. Yesterday, he announced that his policies will drive $1 trillion of private sector money out of our country as part of the agreement that he is going to sign with the United States. That means factories and plants closing in Canada. Most of all in our auto sector, which is on the verge of being wiped out after he promised to save it. So can he tell me, did he demand the president lift all tariffs on Canadian autos, yes or no?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our agreement yesterday, the President and myself, is to focus now on steel, on aluminum, on energy, the building blocks of our broader competitiveness, including our auto sector. Those negotiations on autos continue from a position that is the strongest in the world. 10 is less than 15, which is less than 25, which is less than 50.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Zero is the paycheck that those workers who've lost their jobs are getting right now. And Mr. Speaker, 7th is last place in the G7 when it comes to growth, or in this case, negative growth. This Prime Minister has to get his excuses straight. He blames the tariffs for the fact that we have the second highest unemployment in the G7 and the fastest shrinking economy. And then he claims at the same time that the tariffs are really not so bad. So which is it? Why is our economy so weak? Because of his diplomatic failings abroad or his disastrous economic policies at home?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've been saying all this year, long before the Leader of the Opposition caught up, The U.S. has fundamentally changed its trading policy with everyone. It is a rupture. In that environment, Canada has the best deal. But what we are doing is controlling what we can control, which is building Canada strong. November 4th, that side of the House is going to have a chance of whether they're going to build alongside Canadians a generational investment in an ambitious future for our country.
Question. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
When the U.S. increases its tariffs on our cars and softwood lumber, the PM made a big promise. He said that Canada has already invested $500 billion over the past 5 years and will probably invest over $1 trillion if we reach an agreement together. The Prime Minister said that it will be private money. Will he force U.S. investors or just encourage them to invest here in Canada? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr.
Speaker, today is a momentous day, and I'm sure all parliamentarians would join me in recognizing the historic progress that has been made in the Middle East under President Trump's 20-point peace plan. And I would like, on behalf of members, I would like to commend the leaders of Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, the architects of the plan, Mr. Kushner and Witkoff, and underscore, as I did to the President and to Mr. Kushner, Canada's full support in ensuring that all parties implement all phases of this plan.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We all congratulate President Trump for his peace deal in the Middle East, of course, but I asked a question in French with respect to Canadian jobs, Mr. Speaker, and the Prime Minister needs to offer some respect to Quebec and Francophones that are losing their jobs, and that he needs to answer the question. The question is, he has promised, in terms of the U.S. deal, it will involve trillions of investment, which threatens the jobs of Canadians. Did he obtain this money from the U.S. in exchange? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the current situation is that Canada has the best trade deal with the U.S. worldwide, first. Second, we can improve this agreement, and that is why Minister LeBlanc is currently there in Washington trying to negotiate with the U.S. And against this backdrop, there will be more investment here in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the Prime Minister came home empty-handed with more tariffs on softwood and automobiles, but he made a massive promise of $1 trillion of investment that would leave Canada to go to the United States. He said that this would be part of the agreement that he expects to get. So right in the agreement, he's going to commit to moving $1 trillion out of Canada. Yesterday, he confirmed it would be private money. So how is he planning to do that? Is he going to pass a law forcing our pension funds to move their money south? Or is he just going to continue with high tax and anti-development policies that cause investment to flee?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I was there. And I was there in the conversation with the President. I was there in the conversations in the Oval Office. I was there in the conversations afterwards. And the situation is this. We have the best deal in the world. We're in the process of making it better for the workers in the steel sector, for the workers in the aluminum sector, for our energy workers, for our auto workers, for our workers in forest products, for our workers across this great land, because we believe in Canada. We will not rest till we have the best deal.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, what we have is the fastest shrinking economy in the G7 with the second highest unemployment. And he was there. So he has a duty to tell the Canadians who are the owners of this $1 trillion that he wants to push out of our country what is in this deal. Because he said it would actually be in the agreement that he's going to move $1 trillion of private money south. So there's two ways to do that. Is he going to pass a law forcing investors to sell Canadian investments, putting people out of work here, and invest in the South? Or is he going to continue to kill jobs with high taxes and anti-development policies that send money away?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know the honourable member was not here when this government cut income taxes, cut capital gains taxes, cut the carbon tax. I know the honourable member was not here when this government passed legislation for one Canadian economy and to build major projects across this great land. But the member opposite will be here when this government presents a generational investment budget November 4th, and we hope to have this.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
We must be on to something here because he has $500 billion. Canada has invested $500 billion in the U.S. over the last 5 years alone. Probably $1 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement we expect to get. So this is what he said. This is after he has failed to get tariffs lifted on our auto workers, our lumber workers, after thousands have lost their jobs, after he created the second highest unemployment and the worst growth in the entire G7. So here's a very direct question. He's committing $1 trillion Canadian investment dollars to head south of the U.S. Has he secured an agreement that President Trump will send the same?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has no tariffs on auto parts. Canada has the lowest tariffs on finished goods in the world. We are working towards an agreement that will increase investment in Canada, that will increase investment in the United States, but we will only accept the best agreement for Canada, and the private sector, remember that, will make those decisions.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, he says he's going to put it right in the agreement, so presumably he's going to enforce it somehow. Another Liberal contradiction, another failure and broken promise by this Prime Minister. Let's go to energy. Just days ago, the Prime Minister voted in favor of an energy cap that would make it impossible to fill another pipeline. Then he woke up and discovered that President Trump has, for the last 8 years, supported the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, we know that as long as he blocks production in Alberta, we won't be able to fill that pipeline with oil. So what is he going to fill it with? Maple syrup?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I voted, as did others, a majority in the House, voted against a motion to get rid of something that does not actually exist.
That's right.
Okay, the first thing, does not actually exist. Secondly, we are working with the private sector. We are working with the province of Alberta. We are working with the Americans to unlock great Canadian energy to build this economy strong.
The Honourable Member for Belle-Île Chambly.